Hey, hello, welcome back to another one of my videos. I hope you're doing very well, having a nice day and a nice week. Back with another different type of video today, but similar to one that I've done before, and that is going to be a top 5. This time is going to be the top 5 horror games that I've played, not necessarily just on the channel, because there will be a couple that you haven't seen me play, and it's before I started making videos, but yeah, certainly needs to be in the list nonetheless. But there are some that I have played and that you may have seen if you've been a follower of my channel for a while. So yeah, I'm going to go through the top 5. I've already done one before, and that was a top 5 AAA games that I've played. So like with that one, at the end of this video, let me know what your top 5 horror games are that you've played or you've watched. I'd be interested to see how they compare to mine. And yeah, what your thoughts are. So yeah, let's get straight into the list. Okay, the first video on the list is pretty much whatever I think of now when someone says horror game to me. Is probably one of the worst games I've played on my channel, and that is Amnesia: The Bunker. So with this one, you take on the role of a French soldier called Henry Clement during World War I, where you find yourself trapped in an underground bunker after suffering from a spell of amnesia, hence the name. The rest of the soldiers have met their own fate in the meantime, leaving you to piece together what happened and figure out a way to escape. You're not alone though, thanks to a relentless AI-driven monster that is stalking you the whole time. Your equipment in this game is quite minimal. You've got a noisy wind-up torch, a handful of bullets, but they only slow the monster down, you can't actually kill them. For me, this game nailed the immersion. I felt utterly alone and helpless the entire time from start to finish of this game. And the way that the game was made, it was kind of broken up into 4 or 5 sections, and each section housed a vital item that you needed to aid in your eventual escape from the bunker. The game made great use out of the letters and other material left around the bunker to help you piece together what happened to your comrades. I've always been a big fan of notes and letters that are left around for you to read to uncover the story. It's one of my favourite ways that horror games, or any games in general for that matter, tell stories. If you haven't seen the game yet, then I won't spoil it for you, but safe to say the twist in this game in regards to the monster, I did not see it coming personally, and I thought it was really, really clever. Thankfully for me, it wasn't a super long game compared to some of the other games I've played. And the final boss battle at the end was probably one of the most tensest moments I've ever had. I think I made it very difficult for myself if you've watched it. But yeah, it's definitely a horror game that will stick in my mind whenever I think of a list of top horror games. So Amnesia: The Bunker, in no particular order, but Amnesia is number 1. Okay, next up on my list is going to be Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Now, this one is the first proper Resident Evil game I've played. I've only ever played one Resident Evil game, and that was Resident Evil 5. That was years and years and years ago, and that was with my friend. We played it co-op, and that was definitely more of like an action-focused Resident Evil game, I would say, rather than being kind of all-out horror. And Resident Evil 7 was a bit of a change in the formula, because it was the first one that went to first person, which I'm a massive fan of first-person games. So that, combined with it being set in like the arse end of the southern states of America, it was definitely going to be onto a winner for me. You play as Ethan Winters, who's in search for his wife, and that leads him to a plantation that is owned by the Baker family. What you uncover there was unlike anything I was ever expecting. Nearly every member of the family has been infected with some sort of virus and is intent on making you one of the family. The horror in this game was amazing. The tense moments journeying down corridors or going through closed doors, mirrored with the engaging boss fights with each family member, meant I was always wondering what was going to happen around the corner. Now, when I played this game, 2 of my friends came up to stay with me for the weekend, one of them being Sean, who you've seen on the channel before as featuring in some of my horror games. The way that we played this game, I can't remember who decided or how we decided on it, but basically we had 2 controllers. Did we have 2 controllers? No, we had 1 controller, and we would set a timer, a 20-minute timer, and we would take it in turns playing 20-minute segments, and then at the end of that 20 minutes, you would hand the controller off to someone else, and it would be their turn to play. That was actually a very funny way of playing the game, because you would often get to like the 18-19 minute mark of your 20-minute period, and you'd think, how can I waste time? And you'd suddenly kind of look around and be like, oh yeah, the graphics are really good. Oh, look at this wardrobe, or look at this dead body. Or all of a sudden you'd have the need to, you know, sort your inventory management out or something. So you would find ways to try and kill that last bit of time, especially if you're coming up to a tense moment in the game. So yeah, I think that kind of enhanced my memories of enjoyment for this game. So yeah, overall, an amazing game, this one. I could have put Resident Evil Village in this list instead, but I think Resident Evil 7 Biohazard definitely felt more of a horror game for me than Village. Village was really good. I love that game as well. but I think at times it kind of went back into the kind of shooter focused. Like the castle, like Dimitrescu castle was definitely the horror for me. That seemed to be over a bit too quick for my liking. So if it had carried on with that, then yeah, definitely. But, it went in other areas and it definitely felt more action focused. Whereas, yeah, Biohazard kind of kept me on edge throughout. So that is why that is going to be the next game on my list. Next up in my list is going to be Outlast 2, if I had to pick one. But I kind of want to cheat and put both of them in together. Outlast 1 sees you take on the role of investigative journalist Miles Upshaw, who investigates a dilapidated psychiatric hospital which has become overrun with its patients. I won't go too in depth on the story, but the overarching objective is just to get out. Your objective changes on a regular basis as additional hurdles and stumbling blocks are put before you. It's a very stealth-heavy game, which relies on finding batteries to keep your night vision powered on. Now don't ask me about the link between 1 and 2, but 2 puts you in the shoes of cameraman Blake Langerman, assisting his investigative journalist wife, Lynn, who's investigating a murder. The helicopter you're in crash lands near the site that the victim may have come from, and the horror starts from there. More stealth gameplay awaits as you navigate a Christian cult village, avoiding its residents and also their leader. Now remember the method of playing I said I did for Resident Evil 7 Biohazard? The same applied with Outlast 2. The two same friends came up to visit. We used the same method of playing 20 minutes apart, and I feel like this one was actually more tense than Resident Evil Biohazard to play in that way because of the pure stealth mechanics that you are completely defenseless. So this one was definitely more tense when you were trying to get through your 20-minute slot to pass on. So yeah, I'd say this one was a bit more tense. But overall, brilliant game. I'd say Outlast 2 was more tense, but maybe the story in the first one, because it was a psychiatric hospital and there was better places to explore, I'd say that one might have pipped it. Okay, next up on my list is a game that's going to be very near and dear to my heart, and that's going to be Phasmophobia. The game started my YouTube channel. It was the first sort of videos I uploaded, and there is a big reason that I have put 124 hours into this game. In Phasmophobia, you and your team, or solo, are paranormal investigators tasked with visiting various homes or public buildings to correctly identify what ghost or entity is haunting it. The more successful you are, the more money you make, which then allows you to purchase more effective equipment. Like I said, there's a reason that I've put 124 hours into it, and I've made 85 videos on this game. Yeah, it is one of my first horror loves, if you like, in terms of putting that amount of time into a game of replayability. And yeah, there'll be a link to the playlist in my description. At its peak, this was the scariest game I've ever played. The variety of jump scares it had, the tension it builds by your sanity bar draining, which increases the chance of a hunt, the variety of maps, and the graphics only increased the immersion. And the fact it was co-op meant that you didn't have to put up with the horror alone, but that also led to some of the funniest moments I've ever had in a video game, as well as the horror. Playing co-op, we had some blinding moments, which I have edited into shorts, and they are also on my channel. I don't know what else I can say about this game. It's just a brilliant game. We got a bit burnt out by it. The horror started to dwindle. Obviously it will when you put that amount of hours into a game that only has a handful of ways to scare you, but that's definitely going to remain up there forever. Now, last by no means least is a masterpiece of a horror game that I've had the pleasure of playing recently, and that is Alan Wake 2. Unlike the first game, where you solely controlled Alan Wake, in this game you control two characters, Alan and FBI agent Saga Anderson. I'm not sure I can really explain the story, but it is mental. I loosely understood it at the time, but yeah, I'd be very impressed if someone can just explain it easily and it can just roll off the tongue, because it was a bit of a bonkers game. On a particular note for this game, it is one of the most graphically beautiful games I have ever played. My Elgato capture card combined with YouTube's compression meant that you won't have seen it in the beauty that I saw it, but I think it still managed to put over a bit of an idea of how beautiful it is, but definitely didn't do it justice. It was, at times, one of the nicest looking games I've ever played. I'm so happy that they increased the tension and horror from Alan Wake 1, which mainly felt like a shooter game at times. Don't get me wrong, Alan Wake 2 had its moments of gunplay, being front and centre, which was much better thanks to the PS5's adaptive triggers, but it did feel like a horror game first, shooter second. It also injected some much needed humour, thanks to the introduction of Peter Franzen's characters, the twin brothers Ilmo and Jaakko. Their adverts on the TV were a light reprieve from the game's dark tone. I really appreciated it. It's a game that I didn't want to end, which is quite rare because sometimes I get a bit burnt out when a game goes on for a while. I'm looking forward to it finishing and then starting another one. But yeah, I think it's definitely one of the best kind of Let's Plays I've done on my channel personally, in terms of how good a game it was. It really was phenomenal. And there you have it. Those are the 5 horror games that I'm going to list as my top 5 in no particular order. I probably could have thought of another 5, to be honest, but yeah, to narrow it down to 5, this will probably be it. You know, obviously there's loads of indie horror games that I've played which have blown some higher budget games out of the water, and they will be on my channel. You know, a lot of games I've played on my channel are horror games and they've not made this list. It's an unfair comparison because these are obviously bigger budget. But yeah, that's the 5 for today. Let me know what you thought of my list. Let me know your list. And like I've said before in the AAA games top 5 that I did, let me know if you want to see a list of indie games that I've played or co-op games that you could play with a partner or a best friend. I could certainly do a video on those as well. So let me know what you think of these sorts of videos. I'm quite enjoying. It's a bit refreshing to be able to do a different type of video than just playing a game. So yeah, I've enjoyed doing it. So let me know what you think of this sort of format and whether you want to see more videos like this. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it. And thanks for the support. I will see you in the next video. Cheers.